Hello. Today I'm here to talk to you about what is innovation. My name is Frank So. I'm the founder CEO of the Xavier Group Limited. And before we get started, I'd like you to take out some sheets of paper and go through this exercise with me. Take out 3 sheets, and on the first sheet, put down on it, what do you love to do? On the second sheet, what is the biggest unmet problem that you might have? And on the third sheet, what is your definition of innovation? Because everybody thinks about innovation a little bit differently, and we'll talk about all 3 of these as we move on. The first one, I want to talk about why people love to do what they do and some of the interesting things that people are doing that can help your business this very moment if we get involved in it. Meeting the biggest unmet problem has a lot to do with how you focus it, how you look through a lens at it. And I'm going to give you a number of different lenses that have to do with innovation that might get you into a better position to where you can work through some of these. And the third thing, what is the definition of innovation? We're definitely going to touch on all of that. I think it's very important to understand that innovation may not be what you might think it is. So with that in mind, if you'd finish up those papers, and then we'll get started. You know, collaboration was always a human trait. We talk about face-to-face interactions that go back 10,000 years that we can see in written history. But the problem with collaboration, whether it was a caveman trying to go on a hunt, or whether it's today's human beings that require, press the flesh face-to-face meetings, it doesn't really scale very well. You can only be in one place at one time often, and when you do move around, that takes time away from what you're trying to do. And you're a small business here in Pittsburgh, so you can only scale so much when you collaborate in the old human-to-human interface way. People that were scientists in 1969 that worked for an organization called the Advanced Research Development Project Agency, which is now DARPA, they understood this, and they started working with a lot of the schools, one of them being CMU here in Pittsburgh. And they worked on a concept called the internet. Well, the internet is now all around us. And if you look at the little cluster that looks like a brain over at the left side of this slide, you'll see that it actually scales very well. It connects billions of people in trillions of things and all of the resources around the planet instantly. And it does this every minute of every day, 24/7, 365 days of the year. So the question that I have to start this off and pose this idea of innovation to you is, obviously the internet is one of the most innovative things that mankind has ever built. How are you making the internet work for you? The internet works, according to the people that helped invent it, like John Postel, because a lot of people cooperate to do things better together through it. Today in 2013, it's a fact that there are more scientists, engineers, researchers, inventors, and technologists alive than ever before. Now, every given day, at any given moment, there's 40 million people that give others help over the internet. And these are all the scientists, engineers, researchers, and inventors and technologists as well. And they do this on a daily basis. Now you might ask, well, why do they do it? They do because they believe that you do what you love to do, and they love to help people. And they love to help people for the sake of others. Now, that might seem to be strange in our culture, but it goes back a long ways. The ancient Greeks had an old proverb that said, a society grows great when old men plant trees whose shade they know they shall never sit in. And one of the values of the internet is that it scales extremely well and takes all of your ideas and can help people all around the entire planet. Okay, and you're going to help grow shade that you might never sit in. Steve Jobs once said, innovation has nothing to do with how many research and development dollars you spend, because it's not about product or money. It's about the people you have, how you lead those people, and how much you actually get it. So I'm going to pose a question to you that has to do with the first thing you wrote down. When was the last time you did something for the first time? So now let's talk about what is innovation. Now, I'm sure that as I collect all these pieces of paper after this is done, and we look at what you wrote down as innovation, you may have come up with some of these that are on this chart. Having done that with other groups, this is the first time I've put it down on paper. But you'll see here, what is innovation? It's fresh thinking that creates value. It's new products, processes, ideas, inventions that create social wealth. It's creative ideas implemented, executed, or realized successfully. It's venturing away from the familiar into uncharted territory. It's looking at something new for the first time. It's endowing resources with a new capacity that adds value to it. It's introducing something disruptively and sustainably new. It's a change that creates new dimensions for performance. It's responding to and embracing change better than others. It's reorganizing the old into something new. It's collaborating openly for something better. And it's commercialization of invention. Now, those sound like wonderful, great descriptions. They're important for people to have because people like to define things before they get started. But what they do mean, and that's what Steve Jobs was saying when it's not about product, it's not about money. If you really are understanding what is innovation, that's the whole core to what makes a product or what makes money for your business. So it's important that you collaborate. It's important that you innovate. And if you do those two things, you should solve the three issues or challenges that you put down on those pieces of paper. So how does that relate to here and now? How does that relate to what's going on here in the Pittsburgh area? So what are the core economic strengths and business activity members of this chamber deal with on a daily basis? Well, as some of you might know, I've actually researched this and have been working with it in this area since the 1980s, and I put out a report on this on almost yearly basis, where we're at, where we're going. I helped work with the project when it was picked up by Doug Hoyt at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette in the business section. So I have a pretty good handle on what is the core to the Pittsburgh region, and right now at the top of that core, obviously UPMC is the largest employer of pharmaceuticals around here, like GNC, and Mylan Labs, which is a generic pharmaceutical, really drive healthcare and pharmaceuticals to the top of the list, which is followed by Mellon Bank and PNC Bank and Citizens Bank, and their financing and banking definitely comes second. Retail and business services is strong all over in a number of different ways, and many of you are part of that sector. Education and training, we have some of the top 10 universities probably in the world, at least with CMU as being the number one, University of Pittsburgh with what they're doing in biomedical care. So those are very high on the list. Then under that, as the steel industry fell apart, I've tracked how construction has taken its place. I've tracked how insurance, real estate, and law took a lot of the people from the steel industries and the manufacturing. And then, of course, manufacturing never really fell off the map. It just moved from number one down toward the bottom. And IT and communications has always been a department. Around here, people still are doing COBOL work, but it's always been the core that has driven a lot of this. And, of course, it's being really implemented heavily now in the areas of healthcare and finance and retail and business. Pretty much it's become the core of everything we do. Now, why do I bring these up? Because innovation builds those strengths. So how can Pittsburgh innovate today? Well, I've looked at this, and as you know, I've also done future studies for a lot of the growth groups, the planning agencies around here. And there's 4 things that Pittsburgh needs to do to become number one in the world. They need to focus on 4 macro areas. The first one would be the connected world, connected society. This big internet that we're talking about at the very beginning, which is why I actually brought it up. They need to be part of the Internet of Things, of big data, of collaborative virtual networks. Because the Internet now is integrated into everything, and it's the way we communicate. It's extended the human body across the entire planet. It gives you 40 million scientists and engineers and experts for free that are willing to help you with your ideas. So if you're not a part of this first of the four macro things that you can use to improve your innovation, then you need to get there rather quickly, and you should stay up on it. I think it's very important. We can talk about that more one-on-one after this is over, but I think a lot of you probably could use a lot more assistance in understanding just what that's all about. The second area would be in the area of advanced manufacturing. This area is called the Tech Belt for a reason. The area extends from the Cleveland-Akron area down through Morgantown, West Virginia, and across to Penn State. It covers a lot of Appalachia, but it's focused on advanced manufacturing. What that means, advanced manufacturing is the use of agile manufacturing, the use of quality systems, robotics, automation to really enhance what you can get out of the products. Now, within the area of advanced manufacturing, something's happened over the last 5 years, and if you're not aware of it, you should go down to the tech shop in Penn Hills and take a look at what's going on. And that move is called additive manufacturing. Some of you call it 3D printing. But additive manufacturing can reduce energy costs alone, okay, by 50% in every one of your businesses. And it can reduce material costs by up to 90%, because instead of, like, when you work with products today, you use a subtractive method that cuts down on a big piece, makes it a small piece, and then you fit all the components together by welding or fusing them together. Additive manufacturing does the opposite. It builds layer upon layer like an inkjet printer until you have the product in front of you. And that has really advanced medical prototyping, bioengineering, the reshaping of all kinds of ideas of how you actually build things. Now, the core of all that movement is the National Advanced Manufacturing Institute that's located in Youngstown. But it's also, Johnstown has the facility NCDMM, which is the parent of NAMI. And in the area, there's a lot of this going on. In fact, people are pushing this all over to improve manufacturing. The robotics side of it, the National Robotics Engineering Center, is right here in Lawrenceville. So you need to think about how that's going to have a major effect on how we do anything, whether it's the small thing that you do at home, you 3D print something at your house to fix a stove that broke, or it's the additive manufacturing that runs huge Fortune 500 transportation companies like Boeing or GE or all the rail companies. Pittsburgh also is very much on the hub, I would say, of Marcellus Shale distribution, and is moving to get in all areas of energy and power. And that's another macro scale that you might want to think about, because if you want to do any of the first two things, you need to have the energy and the power to do it. So we're at the hub. We're at the center of the new universe of the 21st century on the interesting new uses of fossil fuel, natural gas, power distribution, solar panels, wind farms, fracking, clean leads buildings, and of course Westinghouse is here with the advanced nuclear power plants of the next century. Finally, the last thing we should look at is supply chains. What will you be supplying, and what will the new procurement, delivery, logistical, and inventory storage systems be required for this new approach to things? If you're creating everything with additive approaches, reconstructive, regenerative, body parts even, they're going to come in a different type of package than what we typically warehouse and inventory. So the way that you would set up an entire supply chain and manage it, which, by the way, we have 3 of the biggest companies in the world that do that right here in Pittsburgh, is going to change so dramatically that you need to stay on top of that, whether you're a small business of 1 to 3 people that uses FedEx and UPS all the time, or you're a major manufacturer. So those are the 4 macro concepts that are going to spark innovation in the Pittsburgh region. And if you tack yourself onto those and start moving in a direction that, actually will move those areas forward, there's a better chance, let's say, a better chance your business will succeed in the 21st century. So how will the 4 areas affect the ways you live, work, play, and learn. And what are you doing, and how are you preparing to adapt? And this might help you with the paper that one of those 3 sheets of paper you filled out. So think about that into those perspectives as well. Now, we've been talking a lot about innovating, but we really have to have some basis of how you innovate. The first thing you need is you need to have this courage to be innovative. Don't think of everything as, well, we've got to cut costs, we've got to improve efficiency, we've got to worry about how we're going to fit into the political scenario with Obamacare and Affordable Care Act and all this other stuff that seems to be prevalent in the media, but a small business or a large business. So you need to have the courage to be innovative. You should imply that and push that down through strategic directives to your people so that they challenge the status quo more often and they take risks. Now, when you take risks are not always negative, they're sometimes positive, so you really need to focus your energies on that, because that's the building of the kind of business you need to be an innovative business. You should also focus on selecting the right employees that have the right behavioral skills. Everybody on your staff should question a lot of things. They should observe. They should be excellent observers. They should know how to network, and part of that networking is, of course, the internet. If they don't know something, they should be using those 40 million people. And probably the biggest area of behavioral skills is they should be encouraged to experiment, because it's in experimentation that you really come up with a lot of the most innovative concepts that are what you would call out-of-the-box thinking. Now, getting into that cognitive skill to synthesize it all, you need to have the ability to associate things, and that's a very big generalist approach, but you need to be able to see patterns and then use those patterns to create innovative business ideas, which can then be formalized to create new strategic objectives that will drive your enterprise vision. In reviewing this with the Harvard Business School, there's 10 areas of innovation that you should be working on, and these are, they come in 3 categories. There's 4 things that can shift the business model. There's 2 things that can change the platform under which you work, and there are 4 things that can enhance customer experience. And if any of you want to really get into this, I'll be happy to discuss this with you one-on-one. You can talk to me after we're done. Also, you need to look at where you're at. If you don't pursue technology progress very highly, and if you don't try to make a big market impact, probably one of the reasons why the construction people are lower on the list today than they were before, and also the manufacturing drop back in Pittsburgh area, is because they're only looking to make incremental changes. The focus is more on product and money. But if you're increasing your technology progress all the way to the high area, well, then there's going to be some technological breakthroughs. Likewise, in the market impact, if you continue to push further and further into changing your platform and enhancing customer experience, you can create a disruptive innovation, which will really have an effect on the area and drive customers to your product over someone else's. And if you apply high technology as well as a high market impact, you can actually create a game changer. You can become the person that, is the next Apple. That's something to think about. So, what is it that you're trying to do? Are you trying to sustain innovation within your organization? That's part of your strategy. If you are, then you need to understand how you pan gold, or how you look for the gold within. That's basically where you want to start. If you want to disrupt with innovation, which again, you would change your platform and you'd work more toward enhancing the customer experience. And if you want to be a game changer, you will start to see that as you do these things to create more of a technology approach and a technological approach and a higher market impact, you will eventually get to the point where you could possibly be a game changer. So how do you make this shift in the business itself? Well, you enhance innovation through collaboration and cooperation. The first step you do is you start out goal-oriented. Look inside the company. Set up project teams and focus on sharing detailed knowledge and collaboration among the team. And let them use the internet to expand that. Let them use communities of practice that they're professionals in. If they're engineers, let them use the engineering professionals. But everybody has their communities of practice, so solve problems together, retain talent, develop new strategies. And then the last part of that, which is probably very high because it's opportunity driven, is crowdsource. Start using your social networks to see how, through a blog or whatever, I do that all the time, people react to new ideas. Because that's a great way to test something. In the old days, we used to use market focus groups, but today, social networks basically have replaced a lot of that need. So, now that you have some ideas of what innovation is, take a look at this chart here and see what you can do to start innovating now. Might ask if you have any questions, and I'll try to answer them right now. Okay, so in closing, let me just give you some ideas of what some of the other people around have basically said that technology is all about and what this innovation process does. I think it can best be summed up by the one at the top that was written by Clayton Christensen, a professor at Harvard University, who wrote the innovation solution. He said, "Motivation is the catalyzing ingredient for every successful innovation." With that, I'd like to conclude today. If your business needs help on innovation specific to your needs, you can contact me. All my contact information is down there in the middle. Thank you very much. Have a good day.